In 1976, beloved fantasy author Madeleine L'Engle applied her visionary seeing to the dystopian planet of American prison, embracing what others could not. That people in prison are capable of wild talent, profound contribution, and are worthy of sincere and authentic relational connection. How do we know this? Amazingly, we learned fairly recently that L'Engle was one of our program's very first mentors back in the 1970s. And to make the discovery even sweeter, her exchange with Ahmad Rahman is wonderfully illustrative of our connective versus charitable approach to the mentorship process. And if you don't know these names, let me fill you in. Madeleine L'Engle wrote a little book called A Wrinkle in Time. Anyone heard of it? I mean, if you didn't read it as a young person, the recent Ava DuVernay movie might ring a bell. Ahmad Rahman is decidedly less of a household name, but an equally powerful person. Rahman was a highly intellectually engaged, incarcerated Black Panther Party leader who later, upon release, became an associate professor at the University of Michigan, Dearborn. In the letters, the two writers share articles and book recommendations, debate their respective religious affiliations of Christianity and Islam, exchange work, share personal stories, and relate through a very personal humor. The letters range in date from 1976 to 1990, over a decade of friendship through longhand and stamped envelopes. Our program at Penn America recognizes the mentee-mentor exchange as a connective experience rather than a charitable one, as said, where reciprocal learning occurs. As much as we rely on a mentor's expertise to help deepen the self-expression and literary skills of imprisoned writers, we also believe in the positive and often transformative impact on this process for the mentor. And as we often see and hope to keep cultivating more of, delightfully, our more accomplished writers often offer strong feedback to the writing of their assigned mentors as well, flipping the very dichotomy of mentor-mentee on its head. The truth is, as you hear tonight, many of our writers are already phenomenal talents and are looking for connection rather than a teacher. We see the letters of Madeleine and Ahmad as an instructional tool for our incoming mentors, illustrating what an equitable, successful, and a sustainable connection through writing can look like, at a cross great difference at that. I really, really, really want to share more about the letters, but I think it's best that you hear them for yourself. Madeleine's granddaughter, Charlotte, has weaved together excerpts from the archived letters performed here tonight. It is with this performance that we are so very proud to announce the Penn America L'Engle Rahman Prize for Mentorship, underwritten by Madeleine L'Engle's family, which will launch in 2020, honoring exceptional mentorships in our program. Yes, you can applaud for that. As of course we'll be awarding in 2020, I invite you to stay connected through our mailing list so you can find out more as it unfolds. But tonight, please join us in celebrating this extraordinary history staged by Charlotte Jones Voiklis and Eric Berryman.
Dear Mrs. L'Engle, your book, Dragons in the Waters, just arrived. There you are on the jacket, a genuine human being with a healthy, wholesome smile. It's good to have this picture because it will somewhat humanize our correspondence. You'll be more than a collection of words and phrases. However, I feel that I've reached an impasse in my literary relations with you. You appear to be very religious, a Catholic, stemming from a long line of Baptist preachers. I respect this. Because my mother was Catholic, I can't but help to associate this religion with delicate lace scarves and ever more delicate ladies in deep communion with their God. It's all so idyllic, so much the American dream. But I write about that other side of the coin, the American nightmare. And nightmares are some of the most beneficial human experiences because they almost always pinpoint major problems. Their intensity moves people to change. The problem is, I don't want to scare you away or to offend you. You are probably somebody's sweet grandmother. And persons from your position in life are not turned on by the politically unconventional and socially abrasive subject matter in my writings. Now, even when I write for black children, the ideas I promote might offend you. You see, I have a short story that I completed as a part of my thesis requirements for my bachelor's degree that I'm considering stretching out into a novel. I certainly wouldn't want anybody sending a story like this to my grandmother. It's about as abrasive as Richard Wright's Native Son. So let me know whether you think it will be proper for you to read and criticize it, and let me know whether and how it might be publishable. Sincerely, Ron Irwin.
Dear Mr. Irwin, it always worries me when anybody says that I appear to be deeply religious, because religious is a loaded word. Hitler was deeply religious. Hate is usually masked by religion. I don't wear lace scarves like your grandmother, and my communion with God is stormy. What religion I have is anything but idyllic, and if it doesn't embrace your nightmare, then it isn't even religion. A great many people go to church with regularity because it's the safest place they can go to escape God. And I don't want to escape God, even though encounters with God are not cozy. Remember the story of Jacob wrestling with the angel all night? And forever after he limped, because any human being who encounters God bears the mark forever after and can be recognized. And people who bear the mark are often persecuted and driven out because of it. I have a hunch, Mr. Irwin, that you bear the mark of that wild wrestling. So don't worry about being abrasive. If a violin is to make music, there must be the abrasion of the bow against the taut gut. So there's the abrasion which is creative, or the abrasion which is made when the bow is banged meaninglessly against the strings, and that's never real or true. I want to read your story. If I can do anything at all to help make you a truer writer with greater control of your medium, well, that's a big part of my religion. Why don't you send the story as it is, and maybe I might have some suggestions as to how to make it a saleable novel without losing any of its truth, or indeed abrasiveness. Yes, I am a grandmother, but not a very sweet one. I'm nearly 6 feet tall and am built somewhat like a giraffe. And I am excessively nearsighted, physically, but not, I hope, in other ways. Sincerely, Madeleine L'Engle.
Thank you for focusing the blurred picture I had of you regarding your religion and position in society. I'm sure your grandchildren think of you as sweet in spite of all you say to the contrary. Though I felt dragons in the waters moved a little too slowly at times, you weaved the plot well. And it definitely held my interest. I'm beginning to recognize you in these 2 books you have sent. I will be anxiously awaiting your comments on this story. It's called Razor Blade.
Many thanks for the letter and the manuscript. It bears out my conviction that you are that peculiar creature, a born writer, and I also feel that you have the staying power to learn the technique, which must go along with the gift. Razor Blade is a good story, but it's not ready yet. First of all, it's too short, or possibly too long, but I think that it should be a short novel, not a long story. Many of the scenes need to be fleshed in, and if you lengthen the piece, you'll have a chance to develop the characters more, which will help the reader identify with them. Henry James says that a writer of fiction must render, not report, show, not tell. Go over the story and you will see for yourself where you have reported, not rendered. These scenes now need to be shown. If the audience for this is children, and I have a hunch it ought to be, we need to think about language. Now, your language is accurate rather than abrasive, but a word can have a more powerful effect on a reader used once than used 20 times. And I doubt any children's editor is going to let you use motherfucker more than once, if that. But that's something to be worried about later when you have a full manuscript.
Most of the other people who have read this story could identify with some of the characters, and they quickly grasped the story's meaning. That you did not get this understanding raises interesting questions. Should I revise it to expand the audience, or should I continue to direct it toward the majority of black people? One of the most fascinating discoveries I have made while writing is that in the process of struggling to get it out and down on paper and organized, I constantly learn as much about myself as I do about the literary craft. Since you have written 20 books, no doubt you discovered this long ago. But these degrees of self-knowledge are completely new to me. It's like I'm calling on previously unknown and untapped resources to break through all the negative forces outside this cell trying to pull me back, and new resources to combat these formidable negative forces inside this cell. Inspiration. I looked back over some scenes, didn't like what I saw, and I'm rewriting them, which means I also have to retype everything that follows them, of course.
I'm glad you're learning about rewriting. The difference between the amateur and the professional is the ability to rewrite. I'm convinced that by the time you're through, you'll have a saleable manuscript, and I look forward to reading it. Thank you for the photograph. You look just the way I hoped you would look. You didn't really need to tell me which one was you. Would you rather have me call you by the name on the photograph, Amilcar? Names are very important to me, and I feel that our names are one of the greatest gifts we can give each other.
Yes, I do prefer that you call me by my real name, Ahmad Amilcar Rahman Sundiata. My friends call me Amilcar.
Thank you for giving me your name. I give you mine, Madeleine. Have you read The Other Side of the Sun? As you remember, I was afraid parts of it might be offensive to you, so I am eager to know what you think.
Yes, I finished it. It leaves me convinced that you are a good woman. Perhaps too good a woman, too warm and full of heart to write this novel. As in everything I've read by you, the basic Christian virtue that obviously permeates your life is present in the tone, in the mood of this story. Even when you speak of horrible lynchings and castrations, it's not really so horrible because your goodness has spilled over into the description and modified its effect. Your personality, which is probably pure of hate, blurs the demarcation between the hateful clan and the righteous people. I mean, although you say the clan is evil, and the way you say it, it says they're not so bad. I mean, and I don't dig the way you set up two equal evils, the Xenomans and the clan, while casting the aunts and Stella and Honoria and her house nigga husband as the good guys. I mean, if I've got to be a house nigga who decides his life, who dedicates his life to properly serving the white folks coffee, I and my entire generation will choose to be something else every time. But you mean well. That's what gets me. I mean, you mean so well. And all the condescending passages are unintentional. You just didn't know how to express what you wanted and what definitely needed to be expressed. If there's one thing I deeply want you to gain from our friendship, it is the ability to express your ideas and feelings about this swirl of racial conflicts in a fashion that puts to use your considerable gifts for the good you strive to do.
Well, you're teaching me a lot. I don't think I want to mean well. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I do want to write what needs to be written, and I'm grateful for your willingness to help me. I responded positively to both of the articles you sent me and agreed with them. Don't ever hesitate to push me into wider and deeper thinking. I sent Razorblade to my agent, and what he feels is lacking in the first chapters, and I do not entirely agree with him, is that quality of storytelling which makes the reader want to keep on turning the pages. Now, I found in reading your story that I did want to continue, which is why I don't agree with my agent. On the other hand, because I am personally interested in you, my judgment is not as objective as it might be. I am eager indeed for you to finish the book so that I can read the rest of the story.
I am concerned about what your agent said about the first chapter of Razorblade. However, I'm going to finish as I plan and go from there. I badly want to submit a short story for the Pen Prisoner contest, but I don't know where I'll get the time to complete a new one. There is that story which takes place in Vietnam, The Action Comes. Do you still have a copy? I was thinking that you could perhaps criticize the story and make suggestions for changes that could maybe get it in prize-winning shape. Let me know so I'll know whether to pursue some other course.
I'm enclosing my suggestions for The Action Comes, which I think is a very fine story. I don't think there's much more to do to get it in shape for submission. And good news, a typewriter should be coming to you soon.
I can't quite thank you enough for your good deeds in getting the grant for the typewriter. I don't, however, want to get into a dependent relationship with you. See, that's one of the bad, unmanly things about prison. We need so much that when we know people who can afford and are willing to give, we can fall into an all-getting and no-giving relationship. Now, we are friends, but I still don't dig this one-sided part of our friendship.
I don't think there's much danger of your ever getting into a dependent relationship with anybody. But there are two ways of looking at dependency. Dean Inge said, God promised to make you free. He never promised to make you independent. I am dependent in many freeing ways on a great many people. You're doing something for me simply by being my friend. If we keep on with this friendship, and I hope we will, there will surely be a time when I'll need to ask you for something more tangible. But friendship is slowly becoming a lost art in this world, and for me, friendship is what makes the wheels go round. How are your revisions coming?
You probably have the impression that people in prison have an unlimited amount of time on their hands to read and write. Not so.
No, I have been under no illusion that people in prison have unlimited time to write. In fact, I have been amazed that you manage to get as much done as you do. It seems to me that under the most difficult, if not impossible circumstances, you look well to each day, culling flowers from the desert, like the true mystics. To live each day well, as I believe you do, is to be whole, and the root of whole is the same as the root of holy.
I'm still working on the story, and also on Razorblade. In the last 2 months, however, conditions here have not been conducive to creativity. Tensions, violence, neo-Nazi inmates, many hassles swarm around us every day. And I wish I could isolate myself and just work, but I cannot. I have responsibilities among my brothers. My work is coming right along, though. No matter what happens, I commit myself to writing something every day. I've been doing this long enough to know how much writers, this one in particular, lose when they lay off. Plus, you busted me. I mean, When you told me to go back over all the sections of my story where I told rather than rendered, you caught me in all the places where I consciously or unconsciously took a shortcut. Now, to render these sections requires the creations of entire backgrounds, deeper characterization to maintain verisimilitude. I mean, I have done this and thereby lengthened the story to where the first 2 chapters are much longer than the entire story was at first. One night when I was in this steaming dungeon sweating over this typewriter, I got a good laugh when the thought came to me that she knew what she was doing.
We must both keep making leaps of faith. I represent in my life so much that you have just cause to hate, that I fear for misunderstanding and for our friendship, which is very important to me. Do you understand that I have come to love you as a friend with no chronological barriers and as a fellow artist and struggling human being? It is a marvel and a glory to me that we are both struggling for the same goals, despite the radical difference in our backgrounds.
Madeleine, have you heard the good news? The Action Comes won a first prize in the Penn Prison Writers Contest.
Congratulations on your prize. I'm truly delighted and not surprised because all along I've thought highly of your talent. You have worlds in you and material to fill a library.
You are right. I have enough material in my head for many novels. But if I don't finish this one, pretty soon I'll flip. What a struggle. Worthy of any warrior's valor. What a struggle. I'll win.